If you're a chiropractor, if you're a clinic owner, or if you're someone who actually cares about where the profession is heading, this episode is for you. Guys, I've just sat down for an hour and a half with Dr. Stuart Bernson, who's one of those people helped scale chiropractic to a level where most of us will never even see. And we didn't talk about marketing or tactics. We talked about one of the most uncomfortable and important topics there is to talk about: the future of our profession, the future of chiropractic. Where is it going? We tapped on really important topics such as technology, how the marketplace is adopting AI, and what you should be doing right now if you want to be thriving in the profession and therefore help more people. Guys, I cannot wait for you to watch this. Now, back to the show. Guys, welcome back to Practice Peak Podcast. And today's guest, by the way, if you did not watch part one with this amazing gentleman, you have to go back. I personally feel privileged to be able to get Stuart Bernson back. And last time we talked about scaling with purpose. We talked about movement. We talked about the amazing thing that him and his colleagues have created. Stuart, first of all, welcome back, sir. Really appreciate your time.
Great to be back.
But Stuart, today I want to discuss something that I believe is a very tough but very important topic, and something that is bigger than one person and it's bigger than an organization. I want to talk about the future of chiropractic itself and where the profession is heading and what's becoming or not becoming, depending on what we do about it. So I'm really excited to pick your brains and share that with the audience. But Stuart, before we start, I didn't tell you this. When I interview people, sometimes, not that I'm nervous, but you don't have the time to absorb what they actually say. So I went back and I listened and I re-listened and I re-listened to part one of our podcast last year. And you said something that hit me in the face so hard that now I cannot unhear it. And I don't know if you remember, you shared the story in a coffee shop with one of your first mentors. And you said something along the lines of, I did not have the money to pay this gentleman $1,500 a month for his coaching fees. And you said, he told me something that did not sit well with me for months and months. I had to think about it. Do you remember what that thing was?
I know exactly.
I think, is it okay to share that story again? Because some people would have not heard the first part of the podcast.
Yeah. So it was a pivotal moment in my growth trajectory and a lesson, like you said, that can't be unlearned. And even today, I use those words with the people I work with. And the question he asked was, would you be okay if all we did was have coffee once a week? And we bought our own coffee, so I'm not even going to buy your coffee for you. And all we did was have a conversation. Would you be okay if at the end of 90 days, you receive the results that you say you want? And we already had a conversation of defining what the outcome was, what the goal was within the first 90 days. And we got very objective on what that was. And like you said, his consulting fee was $1,500 in 1994. Money I didn't have, right? So I would have had to pick up shifts bartending in order to pay for this. And my mind went nuts because I wanted to know what I would get for that. Are there manuals? Are there, classes? Are there things I could study? It was all about how I was going to get there. And he questioned that. And like I said, I struggled. It was November of that year. And it took me until February to work through that question. And my question at the time was, I don't know if that's okay. And being a tremendous mentor, he didn't answer the question for me. It would have been easy for him to explain what he meant by that.
You would have not
and
understood
he
it. You weren't
didn't.
ready.
Yeah, and he didn't. He had the restraint to let me sit in it, and that was it. He didn't try and close me. He goes, I understand, and let me sit with it. And I called him up in February when I had the realization, literally the light bulb went off, and I said, I'm ready to go. And he said, well, what changed? And he knew exactly what changed. And the realization was I wanted the result, and the process was not as important. And so I began with the how to get there,
Instead of,
instead of the why and the outcome. And, one of his favorite adages is, would you rather have your reasons or would you rather have results? You can't have both.
can you say that again, please, for the audience?
Yeah. Would you rather have your reasons why you didn't get your results, or would you rather just have the results? And for years on his business card, the only thing he had on his business card was results rather than reasons,
I love that.
and his phone number. That's it.
What a
It
way
didn't even
he.
have his name on the card. It literally just had results rather than reasons and his phone number.
That's fantastic. So the reason why I asked you this question is I think a lot of times, not in our profession, as human beings in general, it's about being reminded of something, not having to learn a new thing every time.
Yeah.
And I clearly heard you when you said that the first time we had a chat on this podcast, but it didn't land viscerally what that meant. And I think this potentially will be part of the conversation. But when you talked about the why last time, and I believe you'll be in the UK in a month's time. So 14th of March,
Yeah,
is that right?
March 14th. Yeah, March 14th, Saturday, March 14th at United Chiropractic Association's spring event.
The UK audience, if you guys are watching this, if you're listening, you have no idea how much value you'll get from Stuart Burnson. And I think I told you this before we started recording, Stuart. This is not for me to get your confidence higher and higher. You don't need any confidence. You've got the results. I genuinely think it's very difficult to find an individual like you who has built incredible movement in the past and he has insights into the future of chiropractic. So, guys, if you're watching this, if you're listening, hope to see you in March the 14th. Dr. Stewart will be on stage, and we're very lucky to have you in London, Heathrow, I believe it is.
It is. Yeah.
Great. Okay. But Stuart, some people don't actually, maybe they don't know who you are. Maybe they've lived under a rock. Can you give us before we talk about the future of chiropractic, your involvement with the company and the organization you've built, helped build, and where you are today?
Yeah, it's funny um, that you just said those words. Maybe you've, been living under a rock. And I think the truth is I've been living under the rock. And up until this past year, my sole focus has been growing Chiro One Wellness Centers and scaling it for the past almost 2 decades that we've been focused on growing and scaling. So Chiro One Wellness Centers began in 2007 with a vision of becoming a household name, becoming a brand. As many of the chiropractors listening right now know that if they have a patient that goes to 10 different chiropractors before they walk into your office, they've had 10 different complete experiences of chiropractic. Um, I see that as a flaw in the industry and have always seen it as a flaw. Many chiropractors see it as a plus that we are so autonomous to our practices. Um, I think that's not patient centric. I think that's doctor centric thinking. Patient centric thinking would be we should identify what chiropractic is for the consumer so they know how to best utilize chiropractic. our philosophy was to create a place where patients could come and understand, learn and understand how to utilize chiropractic as part of a wellness lifestyle. And so that was our vision. That was the outside facing vision. The inside facing vision was to create a place where chiropractors could learn how to become great clinicians and be handsomely rewarded for their efforts. And so we had two major outcomes that we wanted to accomplish in 2007. We started with 12 offices today in a single city. Today we have over 160 offices across 13 states.
That's incredible.
And so I don't know that we've accomplished yet the the outward looking mission. I think we're on our way in communities that we have concentration, that we are beginning to, or consumers are beginning to measure chiropractic against Chiro One, meaning if you go to a chiropractor other than a Chiro One, that they go, oh, well, this is what chiropractic is. This doctor does something different. So I think we're on our way, but I don't think we've accomplished it yet. I think we'll hit a tipping point when we're at about 500 offices. But I do think and know we have accomplished the second major outcome of creating a place where chiropractors could come and learn how to be great clinicians and not small business owners.
I love that.
And, our average chiropractor as an employee earns around 160,000 US dollars. Um, and, that's around double of what the average chiropractor earns across all variations, associate, owner, independent contractor.
And
So,
that's really important to know because last time, if you remember, we discussed about your framework and concept you guys came up with at the breaking point of the business way back in the days. And you said we have to unify a win-win-win formula
yeah,
for the practice, for the clinician, and for the patient. And that has to be equal at each angle of the triangle. And I remember that
yeah.
so well.
Yeah, yeah, it's critical. I still think I don't know that it's as bad as it was when I entered the profession, but I still hear it from students when I'm speaking to students that these senior docs are predatory, that they want to hire associates for the least amount of money they can. And the truth
It
is,
happens here in the UK too. I think human
yeah.
behavior is the same across the world.
Yeah, yeah. The truth is, most practices aren't at the stage that they should be hiring an associate, meaning they can't support the weight and they're hiring associate doctors for the wrong reasons. They're trying to gain income versus support growth of the practice. And those are two different perspectives.
Yeah.
So talk about the future of chiropractic. I believe in the next 10 years, there will be more employee chiropractors than owners.
This is
The
super
shift is,
interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
the shift is already occurring. It's occurring greatly in the US. um, between the decline in college enrollment, at least in the United States, it's probably across the world. There's a very large decline in undergraduate enrollment, which leads to a decline in graduate program enrollment.
Hmm.
And so, with decreasing chiropractors coming out of practice, an increasing number of chiropractors retiring, there's going to be a shift to third element with more students choosing chiropractic as a career versus a vocation. And we could talk about that if we need to define what I mean by that. There's going to be a shift from solopreneurs, meaning doctors coming out and opening up their own practice, to having a career and a job as an employed physician, not unlike any other profession.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
we're just catching up um, to other professions.
I've always said this and I've always thought about this, and thank you so much for sharing. And I'm not saying me and you are right or wrong. I think you speak from not an emotional, you speak from a very logical, data-driven approach. And that is there's not many professions where you graduate and you open your business.
Yeah,
Or even 6 to 12 months in. You need to build the scar tissue. You need to, I always say, like, find an amazing, incredible mentor that has a great business for you to understand the playbook, for you to see, is this
yeah,
for me? Is it not for me? And we work with just over 50 clinics now in the UK on the coaching side, the consulting side.
yeah,
And bearing in mind, these are some of the top ones in the UK, but I interview a lot of clinics. And
yeah,
this is my belief, but I would love to hear your sort of point of view. After the last 24 months of interviewing clinics, I truly believe not everyone should open a clinic.
yeah. There's probably, depending on who you read, 10 to 15% of the population are built to be entrepreneurs. Not everybody's
DNA.
built. Yeah. So they think different, they act different, they have a different come from, and that's not a positive or negative thing, right? I
It
don't
just
know that
is.
there's, yeah, I don't think there's any glory in being an entrepreneur, right? I don't think there's any shame in being a great employed clinician. I don't think one's better than the other. Um, there are physicians that are, there are chiropractors that are born caregivers, right? And not born business builders. And so, you know, the cycle that we've been in, and part of the challenge why chiropractic hasn't grown as significant as other professions is we, for the last 120 plus years, have taken caregivers and forced them to be business owners. And they've been forced to serve two masters that, you know, they're not drawn to, they're not driven by, they're not inspired to do this. And that's why I do think with the consolidation that's already happening, like the Chiro ones, like the joints, um, like Wellness 365 in Australia, the larger groups that are employing doctors and paying them what they deserve to be paid.
I
So they
agree.
can be great clinicians. And, you know, the company wins, the doctor wins, and like you said, the patient wins by getting a clinician that is not distracted, right? And like we talked earlier with the advent in technology, clinicians are going to be able to be more and more focused on patient care and less on administrative tasks,
Yeah.
even as the employed doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll definitely touch on that. That's so interesting. I never thought about it. Caregiver versus business builder. And you kind of see that very early on. Once you've mentored a few people and once you've opened a couple of clinics, you kind of see the
Yeah,
pattern that this person is likely to succeed as a business owner versus this person should definitely provide everything they can for the patient and not worry about accounting, marketing, team organizations, accountability, meetings, and the rest.
yeah. And most people are not energized by that, right? The vast majority of chiropractors went to school because they want to take care of people, right? They want to be providers of care. They didn't go to be business owners.
Absolutely.
Now, you know, a small percentage, 10 to 15, learn that they are energized by building the business, and then they're faced with the paradox of having to see patients, right? Which is where I found myself at a crossroads many years ago, and that's where Cairo One was built out of. I no longer was energized by patient care, and it started becoming a burden And that's not good for anybody, right? Especially the patient.
I felt
And
really
that's,
guilty personally. Did you have, when I stopped practicing with patients, I had this level of, am I like a bad person because I studied the human body and health and now I'm not providing that? So it took me a lot of time to talk myself out of it and to get to the truth, which is again my why and the purpose I was on.
yeah. Yeah. And the truth is, you're still in patient care. You're impacting patients' lives just indirectly. Like when people ask me all the time, do you miss practicing? I'm like, I never left practice.
Interesting.
I just have 220 associates that see patients. And, my job is to expand their reach. And you're doing the same thing, right? You're using your expertise, your superpower to help other clinicians build their practices and see more patients, right? So you're leveraging your powers, your what inspires you to help other providers build their practice, and you're just working through them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is important for people to listen because people who are listening and watching to this, they will get whatever they can based on the level of journey they're at. So I always
For
think
sure.
don't copy the top of Everest. Model the climb, the fate, which base camp is Stuart in versus Stefan versus you.
Yeah.
And that's why it's amazing to listen to people like you that have done it, been there, done that. But going forward, I think this is equally, if not more important, Stuart. Let's think, and I know you had your birthday in November. You're a year wiser now. So let's think 10, 20 years ahead. What excites you and what genuinely worries you about what chiropractic looks like if we get it right versus if we don't?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time, and even more time now in the past year, since I stepped away from daily operations. Um, we have so much opportunity ahead of us. Since COVID, the consumer is so poised for our product. The consumer is looking for a non-pharmaceutical approach. They're more proactive in their health. They're more focused on wellness and longevity than they have ever been. So this is not a market problem. The market has expanded in what the market wants, right? So 30 years ago, when I came out, um, nobody even knew what wellness was. It wasn't even in the lexicon. A decade later, wellness was everywhere, from the nail salon to the dentist. And anybody that had anything adjacent to providing for the body used the term wellness. It was pervasive. There was no definition around it. I think we're at an inflection point again where longevity is yesterday's wellness. And so the consumer is, especially with baby boomers aging out, are highly focused on how to maximize their years. And so we don't have a market problem. I do believe we have an industry challenge where we're going to have to be very conscious in how we continue to grow. Like, we will have a provider shortage in the next 5 years. We're expecting a 20% decrease in uh, student graduates.
Which is what you were
That's
talking
going,
about earlier.
yeah, that's going to be a challenge. So we do need to be super conscious in creating something that attracts students into chiropractic, right? And right now, becoming a chiropractor is not a good investment if you look at it just on the averages. Between the cost of the education in the US, the average student graduates with about $250,000 worth of debt, some upwards to 300,000. And if you are coming out and your earning potential is 80,000, that's not a very good ROI, right? By the time you strip away living expenses, taxes, um, you're probably down to about, 10 to 20% of that. So 10 to 20,000. That's not a good ROI on that investment. So we have to create a way where chiropractors coming out have a trajectory toward being able to be attracted to becoming chiropractors because it is a good ROI on their investment.
Interesting. So this is, oh wow, this is so amazing to hear you speak. So does that mean, in your opinion, do we think the future of chiropractic, I'm going to upset some people, but I think you have to
Sure.
sometimes speak the
Yeah.
truth. Does that mean that we have to fit into what the market wants, or do we stand apart with a different philosophy of health, wellness, chiropractic? Because do we want to fix the
Yeah.
market? Do we want to increase the if the demand is there, do we need to meet the supply in that way? Therefore, there'll be more money in the profession for students to want to become helping people whilst rewarded for it.
Yeah. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both. It's an and.
Usually the
So
truth is in the middle somewhere, right?
yeah, one, I think we have to meet the consumer where they're at, right? And so today, right now, the average consumer coming in doesn't know what chiropractic is. They believe it's a great solution for a musculoskeletal problem, right? And it is. It's a great solution for a non-surgical, non-pharmaceutical approach to musculoskeletal problems. Um, the schools are educating students to that, and they're losing the bigger picture of chiropractic and being a part of a wellness lifestyle. And so um, I do think that is both a positive and a negative. So, one, we do have to meet the consumer where they're at. No, very, very few in my entire career. I've had one patient who ever came in and said, I understand that the nerve system is vital and I want to maintain that. I don't have any problems today. Now she did, but according to her, she didn't have any symptoms and she was there for wellness. That's one patient in hundreds of thousands that ever came in and wanted that. So we meet the consumer where they're at, and then we educate them and move their paradigm. So I do think it's both. We have to educate the marketplace and we have to meet them where they're at.
Through their lens. Yeah, wow, this is so amazing. The more I speak to people like yourself, sir, the more I get excited about the future of chiropractic rather than depressed and upset about the future
Well,
because
if
there
if
are
if we look at it, other providers are now using our language.
nervous
They're
system
becoming,
optimization,
yeah,
biohacking.
like they're in, again, not to keep referencing the past, but when I came out of school, there were no physical therapists that were manipulating the spine. Today, it's pretty pervasive, and they're going to a weekend course in learning manipulation, right? And we could talk about manipulation versus the adjustment and the intent behind it. And I think it's super relevant. I think it is a distinguishing paradigm that we have as chiropractors. But, you know, again, this might upset the audience. I see in the near future that the adjustment is going to be automated and it's going to be done better and more specific than hands-on chiropractor.
But that
Like,
doesn't, when people are listening to this, that probably doesn't mean the chiropractor will be replaced, right? Am I hearing you
no,
right?
yeah, no, I don't think the chiropractor will be replaced. Um, but I do think technology is already happening that the adjustment itself will be done um, through automation. Now, we already have the tools to do that, right? There
Hmm.
are techniques that use um, automated tools to do the adjustment. I think the evaluation for where to adjust, identify the subluxation, and measure pre and post adjustment is going to happen pretty soon. There are some rudimentary tools right now that are doing it. It's a little clunky. Like I don't know much about it, but I just spoke to somebody that has real-time EEG that measures EEG, so brain activity pre and post adjustment, real time. Now it's super clunky, right? So there's a lot of equipment, but
But
the
so are
provider,
these things. So are
yes,
the first
you're
phones.
right,
As of in,
exactly, right?
yeah.
My first phone was a bag phone, right? It was about this big by this big, and it plugged into the lighter in the car. Um, but can you imagine that we say chiropractic's about nerve system function and not about moving bones, right? It's about nerve system function, and that we can actually measure it real time. Can you imagine the impact that would have on patient care? Like they could literally see their nerve system function increase, and it's measured over time and sustainability. Complete paradigm shift. Like, our words are, I'm glad you're feeling better, Stefan, but I'm really concerned about how you're healing and if you're healing better, right? And so patients aren't coming in and going, Doc, I feel great. I don't need to come anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a lifestyle outcome versus
Yeah,
pain-based outcome.
yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I had one of my good friends and colleagues, Dr. Vismai. He in fact, I have to put you guys in touch. He developed the Cairo ring. I think they're just launching.
Okay.
Which again, any technology when it starts, we don't know the accuracy, the efficacy. But when he has hundreds of data points, he says on the day of the adjustment, patients have 17% increase in deep sleep, and it's consistent across the board with real life uh, smart wearable data.
Right. HRV changes
Yeah,
for the positive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which at the minute we are limited, but I can, yeah, we have to play a different game going forward, based on what you're saying.
Yeah. And we could either hold on to the past and,
Which is really
my
important,
full
right? It's very important
yes.
to
Yeah. My
understand.
philosophical part, because I love the chiropractic philosophy and vitalism. I love that. Um, doesn't have to go away. And it also doesn't have to constrain us to growth.
Yeah, I agree. We had Dr. Tim Young, lovely Tim Young, on the show this week.
Hmm. Sure.
Very, very much to do with, like the philosophy of chiropractic, and he's built an incredible movement as well. But sometimes I think we have to. One of my mentors early told me that if there's a huge wave coming towards you, you have two options: get wiped out by the wave or learn how to surf. And that really stuck with me with every technological advancement we've had. So my kind of next question for you is, if you believe there will be a change in technology, the way we measure things, objective findings, even who knows, the adjustment not being performed by humans one day.
Yeah.
How do we keep the soul of the profession?
Yeah, I referenced this briefly. The intent behind the adjustment is, as you just said, the soul of chiropractic, right? So the intent behind the adjustment is not to my point of view, right? The intent behind the adjustment is one, not to move a bone. It's not to fix anything. It is to remove interference in the full expression and the innate intelligence of the body to express itself. Our intent is far more powerful than the manipulation. And I chose my words carefully there,
Hmm.
right? And so anybody can manipulate the spine. Our intent is critical. And I don't know if I shared this previously. Um, Years ago, I used to hold a Tuesday training. It was a mastermind of sorts. Um,
Internally, so that was
inter
internal within the group.
pre Cairo one. So when I was practicing full time, I invited area chiropractors. Every Tuesday we would meet and we would focus on um, something, right? So we'd focus on adjusting, or we'd focus on our day one, day two, or we'd focus on an office procedure. And one of my colleagues, who's now deceased, who had at the time a super unique practice, it was 80% pediatric, 80% of his patients were 18 or under. Um, and he came at this guy had the best hands. He was one of the finest adjusters. Um, I would get my adjustment from him. My kids only got adjusted by him. Only, they would take an adjustment by me only out of necessity, right? They'd rather go see Dr. Warren than myself. And I didn't take that, negatively. I took it as a compliment that they were willing to stick up for themselves and get the better adjustment by Dr. Warren. Um, he came one day and he said, I'm really struggling with my adjusting. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, and we practiced chiropractic biophysics, so a very corrective focused technique. So I'm just not getting the corrections I used to. And I'm like, dude, you've been practicing this since before it was even a technique. Like he went to Palmer West, he trained with Harrison and grew up in learning chiropractic biophysics. I learned it from a textbook, but he was like at the foot of Harrison. And I said, can't be, dude. Did you change your technique? Are you doing something different? He goes, no, it's the same thing, just not getting the results. And um, it was a time in his life where he was super focused on his children. He reduced the number of hours, another story hidden in that. He greatly reduced the number of hours he was practicing, which compressed his volume. And we got to talking deeply about it. And I said, I just think you're distracted when you're adjusting and you're not intently focused on what you're doing and the reason why you're doing it. And so, just as an experiment, let's not change anything. Let's not train on adjusting because you're a pro. Let's just focus on your intent. So, stop talking to other patients, open adjusting, right? And imagine a practice that the vast majority of the patients are kids, like kids running around, laughing, screaming, crying, when you have an office full of kids and parents, how distracting that could be. This wasn't a Zen, there wasn't incense burning and soft music playing.
You can't.
This looked like this looked like a recess at an elementary school. Um, so I said, just focus. So when you're adjusting the for anterior head carriage and that patient's face down, just focus on like the C5 vertebra that you're going to adjust P to A. Look at the facets and see the spinal cord going through there and the curve being reintroduced and laxity being created on the cord versus tension. Like get into the detail of it and block everything else out. He called me up within a month, less than a month, and said it was purely my intention.
Amazing.
Like, nope, we don't need to focus on the mechanical skill of adjusting. Now, sometimes that is the problem, right? You could be mechanically doing the adjustment ineffectively. And so that I think that was a long answer to our unique skill set as chiropractors is the why behind how we do it.
Yeah.
And that why is critical.
It amazes me how before I got to know you, Stuart, and we've exchanged many conversations in between podcasts, I would have thought that you're very strategy. No, I would have thought that you're very like micro tactics. You've built such an incredible business with so many moving parts. But it strikes me as you have this ability to think strategy and then you go micro deep onto the tactic of the thing and then you step out. This is a selfish question for me, but sometimes that means the audience also benefits. Is that teachable? Can you learn that as a leader to have this ability to see the big picture and then you go deep and you zoom out again? I think in software engineering, they have that is a technical term which I
Yeah.
don't remember now.
Um, uh,
Does that make sense,
everything's
by the
learnable.
way?
Yeah. Everything's learnable, right? Uh, I think it takes being conscious, right, in the moment. And I have surrounded myself with people that could go very deep in their expertise, right? And be able to be in the room. Software is like my IT department, perfect example, right? I don't, I've never coded a single line in my life. You know, I have no idea how that even works. Like I wouldn't even know how to sit down and write the most basic code to do tic-tac-toe. Like I have no clue, like zero. If you could recognize your weaknesses, surround yourself with people who are inspired and energized by where you're weak. You could take a deep dive, but not get caught up in it because, again, you're looking for the outcome. And so I don't know if I've consciously done that. I'm always very driven by the outcome. And so if I'm super clear on what the outcome I want to achieve, I could get down in the dirt and assist the people that play in the dirt and keep them focused on
The
what
big why.
we're trying to achieve, right? Because you hand a project over, and I just had this conversation with my oldest son, who manages a team of financial analysts, And people come to them and ask them all the time, hey, can I get this kind of report? Can I get this kind of report? And they're always wanting to, because they're analysts, like, yeah, I could do that. I could absolutely do that. And it keeps taking the entire organization off on a tangent, right? And his job is to go, yes, you can do that, but does it move the organization forward, or is it just a novelty for today? And so it does take a leader. In this case, it would be the chiropractor owner in the office to have the vision of where they're going and not get distracted by the novelty of the day and keep their team focused on what the big picture is. So if the big picture is to touch and transform more lives, and we're so focused on the blocking and tackling of patient care, but we forget to share the vision with our patients because we're so focused on just the clinical side of care.
Yeah.
It becomes very hard to build the practice, right? If we have asking for referral from a patient as a have to, and when our clinical teams feel like they have to do something, they tend not to do it unless it's attached to a bigger why. Like I was just working with two of our providers.
Sorry, just for the audience, when you say a provider, that's one of the clinicians.
Yeah, a chiropractor. Yep. So I was working with two of our chiropractors and their teams, and they have a clear patient referral goal, and they were way behind, like way behind for the month. Like they should have, I think they had 14 as their goal for internal referrals for the month. They were at two, and they should have been pacing at eight. And I was listening to the huddle, and the words out of her mouth were, we really have to focus and ramp up our patient referral here. And we've got to get back to that. And I'm like, I couldn't keep my mouth shut, right? I usually try to like not call it out, and I couldn't. I'm like, this is where the problem is. You're saying it's a procedure, right? So she's down in the tactic, and I'm saying it's a way of being. Like the way this practice operates is this is what we do as a way of being. So if you want to build a referral practice where you're generating all of your new patient volume from inside your four walls, it has to become of a way of being, of who you are, that you see referral as an act of kindness, that you asking is an act of kindness. And you let your patients even know that. Like this is a referral practice. And why it's a referral practice is it's an act of kindness to bring other people who you know should be getting adjusted, or at least checked. And it's no longer a duty, it's what we do. It's who we are. It's in our being that that's what we do. And so again, from the macro to the micro, right? And so
So
it's
important.
diving down, and then we could give you tactics. How do you have this conversation? We could give you collateral to make it easier. And so there could be procedure around it, but why we're doing it, the why behind it is way more important than how to do it.
I really hope people listening to this and get enough time to get and see you on stage in March. And this is not a pitch. This is genuinely, I'm very excited for you to share some of that real life. I've read a million and one books on personal development, on leadership,
Yep.
NLP, and what you said, I know you've experienced it hundreds and thousands of times with your team on a Monday morning when there's a real problem. And this is so, it's very, very difficult to do for those people listening. So don't feel like Stuart is just born this way. I think you've really developed this. But one thing that kept popping up in my head when you were speaking was this identity shift is not so much about, I guess some of it is who do I become, but it's also what do I need to give up? What are the things that I need to stop being to embody
Yeah.
that identity? So it's the be, do, get instead of the other way around. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
deep.
I do a periodic weekend retreat, and we talk about be do have. And anybody who's even taken a surface dive into self-development has come across be do have. And in absence of knowing how to be, doing this is critical, right? If you just start doing versus waiting to know how to be, you'll get there,
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
right?
Thank you, Stuart. This is amazing. Are we okay on time? Just to double check.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, there is, I just lost, there was something else I wanted to say about
The be, do, have.
patient referral. It'll come back to me. We can move on.
Well, it's interesting. You're talking about
Oh,
referrals.
you said, I wasn't born this way, right? And I built my early practice on doing spinal screenings, going out and doing spinal screening events. And I was relentless, right? So I'd go places I wasn't even invited and stand in the vestibule of, um, would your listeners know what Target is?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. So I'd like stand in the vestibule of a Target and be there until I got kicked out. So um, every Saturday and Sunday for months, I built my practice on that. And I was burning out on doing that, right? So seeing patients all week and then working on the weekends to do events certainly was not inspired by it. And I had a mentor who said, well, why don't you just build your practice from the four walls? And so my why to do it was my big why at that time was I want to reclaim my weekends. So your why doesn't have to be this huge altruistic, save the world why. It could be simple as I want to reclaim my weekends to recharge so I could be focused on Monday and not burnt out on Monday. And so my why there was, okay, now I need to learn how to generate patient referrals. So it can be as simple as that,
Sure.
and it doesn't have to be, um, you know, you're going to save humanity as your why.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it also has almost a counterproductive point if my mission is to save humanity and I'm not able to literally pay my rent for that month.
For sure.
We
For
have to
sure.
go through. I
Yeah.
said this on the previous podcast with our previous guest. I said, in life, there's not many occasions where you can cheat next level. You can't skip stages in life. You've got to go through the motions. You've got to go through the process.
The
Um,
universe is very kind in teaching us.
and the lesson will keep popping up until we learn it.
That's right. Yep.
Stuart, let me do a
100%.
let me do a quick pattern interrupt because this is important. So, and I've not talked to you about this. I hope I don't put you on the spot. But
Sure.
even with my practice here, we see, and because we have five practices, we have some level of data, and we see the
Yep.
consumer shift. We see um, people are being different about how they make decisions about their care, and they're more informed, they're more skeptical, they're different. There's lots of information that is bombarding them. So what I did
Yep.
over the last 2 months One of our PAs went around the whole team, from chiropractors to massage therapists to rehab, chiropractic assistants and management. And I said, can you please collect me the most frequent questions and objections that patients give us? And this is a this
Yeah.
looks so silly. This is a training tool.
Brilliant.
We have the objections jar and the objection is being solved jar. And we use that. And it's so incredible when we randomly select something and then the whole team has to answer in their own way. And I wanted to see how
Right.
you would answer it from an expertise point of view. And I have no
Awesome.
idea what's in a jar, but the questions that we're getting, I'm noticing are becoming a lot more. I know people have done research before they made an appointment. And let's just see. Let's just see.
So after this exercise, let's come back to how patients are making decisions
Oh,
to
that is
choose you.
100% my
Okay,
next question
great.
because the audience needs
Yeah,
to understand that there's a shift in the marketplace.
yeah,
I was just
yeah,
wondering whether
yeah.
to take one as a handwritten one. It doesn't matter. Let's just play around them. This is more exciting that way. Uh, why do I feel sore after? People are likely to stop
So
if they feel sore after their treatment. I guess
post,
that's what
yeah,
they've written.
yeah. So let's create a paradigm shift for our audience, right? So you're never going to get rid of objections. They're always going to exist.
What do they represent, in your
So
opinion? Objections.
an objection is a question. An objection, it's a hidden question, right? And so I I don't want to get adjusted because I'm sore afterward.
Hmm.
Let's say that's the objection. It's tell me why, like this question is, tell me why I'm sore. So the very first thing to solve for that is to be proactive. So if the office anticipates the objection or the question and is proactive in answering it before the question comes up, it's already solved. So, Stefan, before I adjust you, I want you to know you're going to experience one of three things. One, you're going to, between now and your next adjustment, you're going to feel incredible. Like you're going to be, I've never felt so good. Two is you could get off the table and go, between this adjustment and your next, I don't feel any different. Like I don't feel like anything happened. And the third is you may actually be in more pain or have more soreness post adjustment. And I want you to know all three of those are normal responses and will be unique to your body. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I did was pre-frame, and now is that the truth? Can one of those three things occur with
Yes.
the adjustment? Yeah,
Yes.
it's absolutely the truth. So you're communicating the truth to the patient. You're pre-framing what they should expect. And then when it happens, they're not surprised.
In fact, you've probably seen this when you used to practice. A patient who feels sore, that's exactly how I pre-frame it. I just use a visual diagram that we've standardized across all the offices. And the patient comes back and says, Stuart, you'll never guess what? It's exactly what you said. I felt a little bit more sore after.
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah,
cross body language, Stuart, I'm thinking of not having a treatment today because you made me more sore last time.
yeah, right. And
Amazing.
so, it's a communication issue, right? And then when they do come back in and they go, I was more sore after the adjustment. And you could say that's exactly what I expected,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I
right?
think this one is.
Because it is. It is exactly what you would expect one of those three things to happen. And then you could explain why, but they wouldn't have the listening if you didn't pre-frame it. So, Stefan, the reason why you may be more sore today is that we were actually changing your physiology and your anatomy with the adjustment. And what you're feeling is your body fighting to go back to the wrong place it was. And we're retraining your neurology to have the new position that we want you in to be your new normal. No different than going into the gym and putting muscles under stress by lifting heavy weight. No different than you going out. And if you're not a runner, how do you think you would feel if I took you out and ran 5 miles with you? How would you feel tomorrow?
Be pretty
Right?
sore.
You're going to have some soreness. And so that's exactly what I expected.
Yeah, I'll have the editing team to edit this for all the students listening and watching, because I don't think they have this level of bridging the gap between being a student and being a consultant when they come
For
out.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I would say this one is solved very well. We can put that in the solved jar.
Okay.
Stuart, let's go back to the original question, which was there is a consumer shift and people are more
Yeah.
informed. People, I don't know, maybe this is my assumption, but people seem to be more skeptical, more impatient. They want results now. They've gone to ChatGPT and researched best treatment for chiropractic. How do we solve that challenge? How do we evolve as clinical owners, as
Yeah.
clinicians, as a industry to make sure that we use that surfboard to ride a wave rather than being
Yeah.
collapsed?
There is a cataclysmic shift in consumer behavior from search. So from Google search to AI search. So whether that's chat, Claude, choose your AI search and how AI searches is significantly different than Google.
Than
So
traditional SEO.
Google, yeah, Google was driven by how much content you could post, keywords, how to game Google's algorithm, right? And we've spent the last 10 to 15 years doing that. How do we optimize search engine, right? Search engine optimization. How do we optimize our web stack? How do we put backlinks, right? So all this different stuff to end up at the top of the search, right? And we could pay our way into that. So we could pay our way to the top. AI doesn't care about any of that. AI looks for confirmation signals and objective signals of the provider. What I mean by that is it is more results driven and outcome driven than star driven in ratings. And so I'm working with a company who is building a product that generates AI attention and increases AI signal so it finds you as the provider. It's called chiropracticresults.com, and it's brilliant on a number of different levels. So, one, the immediate brilliancy is there. It is taking outcomes, objective outcomes from your practice and posting them on a third party site, which is critical. So it's not self reported, it's being reported by a third party objective, non affiliated entity. So you, as the practice owner, could take your patient result, HIPAA compliant, blinded, and go, patient S came in with neck pain and by visit 3 had a 20% increase in range of motion, a 2-point decrease in their visual analog pain scale, and it gets posted to the chiropracticresults.com website. It could be verified by the patient. So the patient could verify the results. Again, third party. It's not Practice Peak saying this is what we get with our patients. It's a third party verifying the results. That has AI searching for third party verifiable outcomes.
Which is very important in the
So
whole concept that,
critical. That's
yeah,
how AI searches,
yeah.
right? And so somebody searches best chiropractor near me in AI, it is now combing what best means, which is clinical outcomes, for to recommend. It will pass everybody up if there are not outcomes.
This is a game changer.
It's on so many levels. So just from practice building, yes. For profession building, this, and it's in its infancy, but if
When did
I
you guys
look
launch?
forward, um, the just finished beta and just opening it up to the general clinician.
Brilliant.
And you could go to chiropracticpractice.com. You could register your practice.
Sorry, chiropracticpractice.com or chiropractic
I'm sorry,
results?
chiropracticresults.com.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
You could register your practice and you could post your first 12 um, results free. So you could kind of do a trial, um, which is cool. Um, the long term for the profession is chiropractic results will be gathering thousands of data points on patient outcome by diagnosis. And the power behind that is to be able to go to self-insured, so corporations that insure for their employees and payers and government bodies and go, look by diagnosis, the results our patients are getting.
This is blowing my mind because if you think about one of the biggest challenges in chiropractic, especially here in the UK, we have quite strict governing bodies guiding what we can and cannot do because they always say there's limited evidence. That
Yes.
is a game changer. And I know that gentleman who you're involved with is a bit of a genius as well, which sometimes when you invest in companies, you invest in a person. So I'm very excited to see how that evolves.
Tristan is one of the smartest people in what he does that I've ever met.
Wow. I'm so
He's
excited.
he's brilliant at what he does. He sees things different. I've only known him for about 6 to 8 months. I've known of him. Um, he's brilliant. And he would have been a third, and he would say this, he would have been a third generation chiropractor if he didn't want to be a rock star.
Yeah,
So
the way.
the rock star thing didn't work out. Um, but he owns chiropractic. He comes from deep philosophical chiropractic roots, and he has a huge vision and love for the profession. So it's a pleasure being able to work with someone that isn't a chiropractor that owns it and sees what is so mission driven in building this profession,
Wow.
one office at a time. He's brilliant. Yeah.
Good, good, good. Well, what I will do, Stuart, is if it's okay with you guys, if not, that's fine. We can put a link to the website so in the show notes so people can check it out. Because
Yeah.
I think sometimes we need, I call it an atomic shift in a profession where cross-pollination of industries come together and something magical happens. And I feel like you guys are onto something here that in 30, 40, 50 years time, we'll talk about it. That absolutely reshaped how we see.
I don't think it'll take that long.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
I
think
think, yeah. We talked about this pre-pandemic. podcast, the acceleration and adoption of AI is exponentially greater than previous technologies. If you just look, just 12 months ago, people had no idea what chat was. Chat what? Right? Was what do you like? What? And today, everybody knows what chat is. And I don't know the latest numbers, but it's high. The adoption rate's over 50% where people are, using chat um, as their primary response.
Hmm.
And that's why Google had to make such a huge shift and put billions of dollars into developing Gemini inside of Google because they were losing market share that fast.
Yeah, yeah.
Super interesting. Not to geek out
No,
on
no, no. I
it,
think
but it's
people,
super interesting. And there are great lessons to be learned here that if you don't adapt and adopt, you're going to get lost.
you'll be irrelevant. And I hate to say this, but it doesn't matter how amazing of a clinician you are and a caregiver. We have to be relevant. I was even looking in, like, I went deep in this rabbit hole a few months ago where I was reading about Bing. Bing as a search engine is very,
Yep.
very old school in the UK. No one uses it unless you're 85.
Yeah.
But the way
Yeah.
that Facebook was making strategic moves and how that's integrated with AI, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, do you guys have any data on in the States? You guys are always ahead of us. But I'm interested because it will clearly happen here at some point. What's the if you have a million visits to your website, just as a easy to work with number, or 1,000 visits to a
Sure.
website, what percentage of that comes from Google versus AI engines, LLMs that made that decision possible for the patient? Do you have any data on
Uh,
that?
I I don't have that. I could get it. It would be interesting. I still think today, if I had a guess, um, I would say that Google is still highly relevant,
For sure. Yeah.
and it's still the dominant way of searching, but it's quickly losing traction.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're investing pretty heavily in AI generally. We talked about this as far as AI scribe. So from the clinical setting, actually all the way through our funnel, we're looking at how do we leverage AI from marketing to patient care to revenue cycle to automating processes that are now done by people that take away from patient focus. And so we're not looking at eliminating people, we're looking at getting them focused on patient care and getting all the administrative tasks done as much as we can through AI and leveraging technology so you could focus on what's most important, patient care.
Patient care. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is again, we need leaders like you to bring us back to reality because it's not about getting every single sexy, shiny AI tool that is out there. It's what the why. Why are we doing this?
Yeah,
It's to provide
yeah,
better, more consistent, more measurable care for patients.
yep, yep.
Uh, is there like I call it a killer insight, the one metric, something that you've personally been exposed to when you work with companies like chiropracticresults.com? One thing that you thought we absolutely need to double down or triple down on this? A trend, a metric, an insight,
Well, I think we've already exposed it. I think um, we have to get very educated. I don't want to say smart. I think we have to get very educated on how to leverage these tools and not go after the shiny, bright, shiny objects, right? And so um, something, and we talked about this pre-show, something as um, leveraging AI Scribe, where there's an AI agent that is agentic, that is actually learning as it goes to listen to the physician patient exchange, extract everything relevant out of it, and chart it for you. And so if you talk about little Johnny's soccer game, football game, it doesn't record that. It'll only record the clinical information and put that into your note. You could be, while you're doing the exam, you could be 100% present with the patient without a pen in hand and paper and talk to the patient through your consult and exam. And so think how powerful it is, number one, to be present. I'm sure you coach on present time consciousness and train on that. Now think about if I'm eye to eye with you and not eye to paper, and I'm bringing you through an exam and take something as irrelevant at the time as checking range of motion or palpating, and literally because you have to talk in order for the AI agent to listen, go, I'm noticing, a trigger point in the left trap. There's hypertrophy in the left trap compared to the right trap. The patient can't rotate. It has a 20% decrease in cervical range of motion on right rotation. And the patient listening to what the doctor is saying versus just writing it down,
So
right?
powerful.
And yeah, it's self-affirming to the patient, I'm in the right place. This doctor, because I'm looking eye to eye with the patient, Stefan, do you notice this is much more tender here than here? This is how it should feel. Your left trap is taut, tender. You could feel this nodule here, but you don't feel it on this side.
Mhm.
Where I'm not busy writing, I'm actually engaged with the patient. Now, can we do that today without any of these tools? Absolutely. We can do that. We tend not to because we're busy writing and recording versus having something in the background doing it for us.
Mm.
Huge leverage,
What
like
did you say?
huge.
There was close to 20% of providers' time is not wasted, but used towards
Yeah.
making notes.
Documentation and paperwork. Across all healthcare professions, about 20% of our time that we spend working. So think about that. That's an entire day per week. If you work a 40-hour work week, I don't know who does that, but say you work a 40-hour work week and 20% of your time is spent on clerical tasks, that's 8 hours. That's an entire workday that we spend on documentation that you could reclaim completely to either see more patients, focus greater on patients, or take it to replenish and recharge and take the day off, replenish and recharge. And
It's
it's
revolutionary.
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's just like back in the days when we used to travel, and you say, "Of course, I can travel by a horse, and I can get on the horse, and I can go from this city to the next." Well, now I can just hop on the airplane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both means of traveling. Stuart, thank you so much. So this has been so insightful. And most people, when we interview them, we talk about practice growth. But today you've helped us shape, I suppose the best way to say is how people can think about the future of chiropractic. And this is probably one of the best tools you can teach people. But I'm curious, we talk very conversationally. From the conversation we had today, did anything surface to you personally as you were discussing things? Anything new, anything different?
Yeah. I had a mentor who used to tell me the the communication is really a reflection of what you need to hear. And so we talk um, in order to hear back what we need to hear ourselves. And so, yes, I'm talking to you, but and I'm talking to your audience, right? Also, but if I look at you as a mirror that's reflecting back what I need to personally hear, that always impacts me when I make that conscious, oh, okay, this is everything I said today. Did it create value? I assume it has. I hope it has created value for you and your listeners. Um, but the truth is, I too needed to hear it. I too need to listen to these words and apply it over here. And so, I'm always so humbled to get to have these conversations because it gives me a platform to reflect on what I'm up to and how to apply that to where I need to grow and listen and apply um, what what I'm doing, right?
Love that.
And so it's always a great lesson. I get so much value, personal value, from being on your stage, on your platform, and having the dialogue and reflect back on, okay, take an inventory. Where do I need to apply this better? Where do I need to focus? Where do I need, because the conversation, you know, if you believe in universal intelligence, which I do, the universe is creating the environment for me to learn and listen. This conversation would not be happening today if there was not lessons to be learned by us both.
I think anything I say after this last 3 minute statement will not make the podcast better. So I think this is the best time to thank you so much, sir. I have a feeling is going to be one of those where I have to listen and re-listen and be my own mirror, as you say. And I strongly encourage people, if you want to learn more from this amazing human being and a leader and someone who is really creating I think, a new movement with where we're heading. Dr. Stuart Bernson will be one of the main speakers in the UCA conference on March the 14th. So, Stuart, you've got my word. I'll make sure the team gets the podcast out way before that. And yeah, I look forward to the future of chiropractic. I feel a lot more inspired now than I did an hour and a half ago. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I really look forward to being in the UK and sharing with a new audience. Yeah,
Thank you,
super
Stuart.
excited.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.